I know very little about you. We have awkwardly stared at each other for the last 8 minutes.
It's everything about the concept is what we don't do anymore. We don't just have conversations with people where there's not an agenda. Right?
It's like meeting a stranger in a parking lot or something, and then like, hey, you want to have coffee?
Yes. Oh, so how you doing? How's your day?
Exactly. Well, we are live here, Coffee with Humans, with my soon-to-be new friend, Christina. She's still actually a stranger. I only met her about 8 minutes ago. That's the essence of Coffee with Humans. Two people just bumping into each other randomly and then saying, hey, let's grab coffee. Before we got on the broadcast, I was thinking if we could have this discussion anywhere, where would that be? And I came up with we could be sitting in Iceland in a hot spring.
Lovely.
So if you could have this discussion anywhere, where would it be for you?
Love this question. I'm stumped right now. I'm not really a beach person in terms of getting in with the aquatic life, but I do like to be near it and feel the breeze from it. Yeah. And so anywhere by a beach.
What drew you to clicking the button to have coffee with me?
Was searching and I found this one and it grabbed me, it pulled me in, and it just seemed, your podcast and Coffee with Humans seemed very welcoming, that you were really eager and enjoyed just making meaningful connections.
Coffee with Humans is like Sunday brunch.
I love Sunday brunch.
Okay, good. Because, well, you're in the right place. Only There's no food.
Well, it's true. We are live once again with another episode of Coffee with Humans, which with my soon-to-be new friend, Joey Natale. Joey, welcome to Coffee with Humans.
Hello, thank you.
Well, we both agreed that this is going to be an exciting time, in part because it's sunny outside where you're at. It is not sunny where I'm at. However, well, that's not true. It is sunny. It's sunny above the clouds, which is good with me. But it's also like 42 degrees, which is okay. So for our viewers and listeners, we just met moments ago. We know nothing about each other, yes, which is the essence of Coffee with Humans, strangers becoming friends. And I'm even in a new place I normally wouldn't be. But I'm located in Northern Illinois. Where are you located?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina. I was going to guess that. Yeah. That's not true. I wasn't going to guess that.
What were you going to guess?
I wasn't going to guess. There's no point in guessing. I would be wrong. Which is the great thing. Honestly, it's the great thing about Coffee with Humans, because it's fun to just bump into somebody and have a conversation. And now we are going to have a conversation about gratitude and living on purpose, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. Mm-hmm. For sure. But you brought that up. You're the one who, when you filled the information, you're like, I think I asked, what would you want to talk about if you want to talk about something? What's on your heart and mind? And you talked about gratitude, and the steps, I think, to becoming gracious about your life and living with purpose.
Absolutely. That has been lately on my mind for sure. I guess, kind of for me, my journey where I get that is like in 2020 when the apocalypse began, I attended a virtual Tony Robbins event. And there was this moment where Tony was like, wake up, get back to your purpose. And I was like, oh, yeah. So I just decided to become a coach. And since then, things have been just magically happening. And it's been awesome. And I've been loving it in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So let me ask you this before we get too far into here. What inspired you to click the button to have coffee with me?
I was actually invited to do it by a mutual friend. Yeah. Diana, if you know her. She told me, she was like, hey, this guy's really cool. And I was like, I like cool people. So I did.
Now I have to be cool. I don't know.
You're pretty cool to me so far. So
all right, well, I guess that's saying something.
Yeah.
Well, okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. And see, again, for our viewers and listeners, I don't know you from anybody yet, but it seems that we are here on purpose. And there appear to be no accidents.
I would agree with that.
And circumstances aligned in a pretty critical way to make all this stuff happen, which is great.
As the wise philosopher, what's his name? Oh, I just blanked on it. All right, the painter. Yeah, Bob Ross. That's it. As the wise philosopher Bob Ross once said, "There's no mistakes, only happy accidents."
Yeah, he was a philosopher that people didn't give enough credit to, I think, until he was gone. Which I think is perhaps that's true of most philosophers. They don't get enough credit until they leave.
It's true. I would agree with that for sure.
So why'd you become a coach?
Well, I've always wanted to be a therapist ever since I stepped into my first psychology class in high school when, all the teachers were like, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, I don't know. And so I took a psychology class. I'm like, yep, that's it. That's what I want to do. And, took a long time to figure out that it wasn't therapy. It was coaching, actually. That was more of aligned with what I wanted. Because when the time came for me to, it's time to go to graduate school and become licensed, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Debt and other schooling, and I was done with school. So took a bridge, went into IT, hated it. Love gaming and computers and stuff. But like I said, attended the Tony Robbins events, and I was like, yep, that's right. This is what I love. I love talking to people, helping them, and helping them figure out their dreams, their purpose, and all the goodness that they are already.
So you went from psychology to IT to I might be a therapist, somewhere in the middle of that, to you're a coach. That's quite the extremes.
I would say that coaching and therapy are like they hold hands and then they dance, but they work in different areas in life. And just for fun, my favorite analogy I love to use is like, and this isn't always true for every circumstance, is like when life hits you really hard and you fall in the mud, which happens, a therapist may be there to help, get you back up and move away from the mud puddle so you don't fall back in it. And then I, as a coach, will say like, all right, let's get you cleaned up in a nice suit or a nice dress, and let's go talk to that pretty person you like, or find your dream career, whatever big goals that you want. So it's like stage 2.
Okay.
Which is more aligned with kind of what I love doing with people in life. So, yeah.
So as a coach, let me run this by you and see if this rings true.
Sure.
From your experience.
Sure.
I heard at one point in time that coaching is, the essence of coaching is that the answer is already within you. You are not yet aware of it. And so as a coach can help you ask good questions to reveal the answer that you already, that is already existent in you.
Absolutely. I'd agree with that. I think some coaches also delve into a little bit of education and mentoring, which I like to dabble into as well.
Yeah, so a mentor knows the way and shows the way, and a coach allows you to define your own path.
Sometimes
define your own way.
It's cross.
Yeah,
of the two. It depends on the type of coach you are, but like, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's kind of one modality and thought process of coaching, and I agree with it.
Is there a particular type of coaching or area of coaching that you get into that really jazzes you
up? Relationships and career. So like I help people fall in love with themselves. Essentially. That's kind of what I've been calling myself, a holistic confidence coach to help people fall in love with themselves, specifically IT people, because I'm a nerd.
Okay, well that's an interesting niche. So let me get this straight. So you help IT people. You're holistic you said holistic confidence coach to help IT people fall in love with themselves?
I'm a holistic confidence coach that helps young IT professionals fall in love with themselves.
Do young IT professionals not love themselves?
I think everybody could work on that. So I just happen to speak the nerd language of like anime, video games, and other related things. So I'm like, hey, I can relate to that topic.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's why I choose that area to focus on.
And yeah, that area is pretty niche.
Yeah.
Or niche, depending on who you are and how you want to say that.
As well.
Niche is the elevated term, I think. Niche is what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of, I'm just asking for a friend. Loving oneself. Where does love for oneself come from?
It can start in many ways, but I think the one way I would start is getting clear about, like, can you even say that?
What do you mean?
Can you say that you love yourself?
Okay.
You know, and some people can't. And some people say they like, I don't even like myself, let alone love myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a benchmarker, of course. And next stage, can you say it? Can you say it to yourself in the mirror? Can you look at yourself and do it as well? That may make people feel uncomfortable as well. And why is that important? That's because, well, you know, for some people who struggle with insecurity, low self-esteem, low self-respect, and self-efficacy, things like those, if they can't even say it to themselves, they won't be able to handle it when somebody else says it to them. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm writing a book right now, and I think I wrote a section that said it is vitally important that you are here.
Yes.
And if it is vitally important that I am here in this moment in my life,
Mhm.
then it is vitally important that I figure out what I want to do with it.
Mhm.
And I think, and I would agree with you, I think there's a journey that everyone is on or could be on, or maybe they are on, and they could figure out how to appreciate the necessity of their own existence.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I think it is a binary thing. It's either vitally important that you're here or entirely irrelevant.
Depending
And
on how you live your life or what you want to do.
I Well, I think it's vitally important. I don't think it has anything to do with whether you recognize it or not. I think it is always vitally important that you're here. And anyone who thinks it is entirely irrelevant is it doesn't actually believe that.
You think sorry, I misunderstood you. You said like
Yeah.
people who don't think that you are, they're irrelevant?
People who I think that the question is it vitally important that I'm here, or is it entirely irrelevant?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And I would choose to say that it is vitally important that you are here because you are here against all odds.
I would agree with that.
Therefore, right? Therefore, the opposite cannot be true. It cannot be entirely irrelevant that you're here. And no one lives as though it is entirely irrelevant that we are here. Every one of us believes in the necessity of our own existence. So then what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Is
the next question. It sounds like your coaching is, okay, now what are you going to do with the vital existence that you have?
So yeah, once we establish as like, oh, I like myself and love myself, like, cool. What do you want to do with that? Now that you believe in your abilities, which is self-efficacy, and you believe you deserve the thing, which is self-respect. Here's a fun thing. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your self-respect scale versus self-efficacy? Self-efficacy is, I believe I can do the thing. Self-respect is, I believe that I deserve the thing. Figure those out, divide them together, divide by 2. That's your self-esteem score currently. That's what I do with my clients. Just a fun thing. But yeah, once you figure those things out, what do you want to do next? It's a big world out there. There's a lot of things to do. How are you going to dream? I have my clients like, dream big. Like, you know, it's so much things to do. Whether just sitting under a tree or chasing success or finding the love of your life and just having good friends. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you have been on that journey, I assume.
Yes, I have actually.
Okay.
It's been great. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And that journey took you then to coaching by way of COVID and Tony Robbins.
Pretty much. Learning how to socialize with other people, how to talk to girls, what that looks like, how to deal with rejection, getting better at social cues, reading others, understanding them, and not just learning it, but then excelling at it in a lot of ways. So that was something I strive for.
So you were so if I'm hearing you correctly, you were at a place where you did not have good social skills and you had to go learn those?
I used to believe that I was an introvert, and it took a heartbreak from a theater person to pull me out of that, to realize like, whoa, I'm actually this really extroverted person that like really enjoys people and I really get energized by them. And so that was a moment where I was like, well, what else about myself that I don't know, that I am, that I'm not? And so this quest for like learning and growth just was born. And so I've just been, the world's an adventure. The variety is the spice of life is the kind of a motto I live by. And I love trying new food in that regard as well. Visiting new places, meeting new people, traveling. It's just what I love to do. So I fell in love with learning and growing. And so that's mostly been in the context of related to people, psychology, and sometimes social psychology, but not always as much. But yeah.
Don't you feel that all of our growth is in the context of people?
Well, yes. I mean, it reminds me of a funny story, actually. I don't know who said this. I think I heard this book from Deepak Chopra, and I don't forget what the book was called, but it's like, there's this wise man who, some sage or something, was meditating. And he was just like, I did it. I'm enlightened. I did the thing. Then he runs down to the town and tries to tell everyone about it. And he runs into somebody, and I don't know who it was. It was just, and they bump into each other really hard. They knock over. And the sage says, watch where the hell you're going. And then he catches himself and he's like, oh. And then he goes back to the mountain. And so, like, I love that story because that says, like, yeah, maybe you can find some sort of enlightenment and like by yourself or just like whatever higher version, self-actualization in psychology terms. But like, can you do that around people? Another concept is also being anti-fragile. So like life itself happens to you, but like people are the ones like they'll push your buttons potentially. They'll show you how much you need to grow and learn. It's a constant mirror. And romantic and professional and just friends relationship really do this. So like, basically, kind of agreeing with what you said, like the most growth happens with people.
So on TikTok, I don't know how I found myself on TikTok, but I did.
Yeah.
And, and I just had a TikTok go viral. I have 59,000 views, maybe.
Congratulations.
Which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't trying to go viral, I was just saying something. But on TikTok, there's a popular quote that goes something like this, and I'm going to get this a little bit wrong, but it goes something like, the idea of relationships is not to find is somebody who doesn't push your buttons, but it's someone who does trigger you, and provides enough safety to figure out why you're being triggered, so that you can heal that part of you, because the trigger is there to let us know of something that can be healed.
Yes.
So, the sage who goes down there is like, why the hell did you bump into me? That is an indicator of an area that needs work.
Absolutely.
Now you can find yourself in a relationship and choose to work into that trigger to heal that space safely, rather than pushing away from it and saying, oh gosh, this person triggers me constantly. Well, that's all about you and very little about them.
Absolutely. And in Jungian psychology, one would call this shadow work.
Yes, they would.
That concept.
Yeah, the things we hide, repress, and deny.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And so I've one of my instructors, I do NLP as well. He's an NLP master guy, awesomeness dude. And so he wrote a book about it, just an introduction to shadow work. And I was like, well, this is some cool stuff. And I love it because it's about anything maybe not anything, but to a certain extent, it's like, I'm not this. I don't do that. Or things that you see in others that piss you off, or like some sort of really extreme negative emotion. Like that's kind of an indicator, according to the book, where it's like, hey, you may need to get more in alignment in that area type of thing. And so yeah.
So for our viewers and listeners, this idea of shadow work, I feel like I think we're going down a rabbit hole, which we probably need to go down a little bit further, because I think we just need to explore it. So like we talk about, shadow work is this idea of each one of us has things we hide, repress, or deny, which are not always bad things. Sometimes they're good qualities that we don't want to observe in ourselves, because we believe they might lead to negative consequences. So for instance, me, I was 2 years ago, I think it was, I was doing this Coffee with Humans, and I decided to do a Christmas episode of Coffee with Humans. Where I was gonna do poetry, I was gonna sing, and I was telling my daughter about this. I was excited. I was like, hey, going to do this thing. And she's like, why you can do that? I was like, well, because it's fun and the people enjoy it. And and I said, and I'm a good singer. And she's like, ooh, humble. And I was like, wait a second. I was like, that's humility is not that we don't own our strengths. I said it would be prideful of me to say I'm a good singer and you're terrible and I'm so much better than you. But for me to say, hey, I'm a good singer and people like listening to me, that enables me to step into something. It actually enables me to step in and explore strength. Now, if I at one point in time, I wouldn't have said I'm a good singer. I would have kept that in my shadow. Why? Because I wouldn't want to be perceived negatively. Yeah. But it's just reality. Mm-hmm. And if we don't sometimes look into our shadow and say, okay, what are the positive qualities that we think are going to lead to negative consequences? Maybe we'll be ejected from the group because, we are, more intelligent than our friends or something like that. Whatever it is that we see that strength, or, hey, I'm really into gaming, but I'm not going to tell the girl that I'm into gaming because I don't want her to reject me. Yes. Right. Well, we throw it in the shadow.
Yeah.
And we're true to ourselves, pulling that out of our shadow and honoring ourselves as though we were our best friend, right? And I think enables us to walk into our strengths.
I agree. Yes.
Sometimes, to your point earlier, that sometimes the shadow stuff is a negative quality as well. Sometimes we push down some things where we're just like, oof, like I bite my toenails or something like that. I mean, it's not something you'd announce to a group, and maybe you shouldn't, but maybe you should stop biting your toenails. Yeah. But we might throw it, we might throw it into our shadow. It's like, I don't want to look at that. And I certainly don't want you to see that. Or sometimes there's things that we need healing in. I think people have pasts, they've got baggage, and they throw it into the shadow and they're like, I'm not going to look at the fact that I was, abused. And therefore I never go about healing that. I just chuck it back there, and it controls me. It controls my interactions because I'm constantly turning so that you don't see the thing I'm trying to hide from you. And I don't want to see it either because it brings up things that I don't want to deal with. But again, if we don't deal with it, then we're constantly, hey, weave, dodge. And we wonder why our interpersonal interactions become so awkward.
It's exhausting.
It is.
It's a lot of, you waste a lot of your energy and a lot of your time.
Yeah.
And so that's one other thing. Dealing with baggage is one of the other things I deal with clients with and do release work and those type of things. And just it's magical stuff. When I love the analogy of like you're climbing up a mountain and you're like dragging giant boulders or rocks. Right. Or like weights, and just like you just cut them, and then they're like, "Oh, you're free to go," or it's just lighter, Yeah. And so dealing with more shadow work, whether it's more positive or negative, usually people focus on the negative, of course. You become just more in line with yourself, and also as a result of this, which is what I focus on, is confidence. You have more confidence. And you know what the sexiest thing is? Confidence. Yeah. Men and women love confident people, but anybody loves confident people, honestly.
Well, confidence people, the idea of accepting oneself, I think is super important because it's very difficult for me to fully accept you if I don't fully accept me.
Correct.
Because if I don't fully accept me, I'm into that point where I try and weave and dodge to become someone acceptable, which also needs you to be in a certain acceptable place so that I can accept me.
Yes. Absolutely.
Whereas if I fully accept me, then you're free to be who you are too, because I'm already cool with me. Like I am. This is me. Doesn't mean it doesn't mean I've fully explored all of the aspects of me, and it doesn't mean I'm amazing at all things. It could mean I'm really bad at some things, but just knowing it really helps me, live more freely. But it's crucial to our interpersonal interactions. You talk about, dating or, talking to girls. If the idea is, well, to not be rejected, you are in for a hell of a ride because you're going to have to become somebody different for everybody in any given moment.
Yes.
Whereas if you already know that you're fully accepted, then go about your business, do your thing. Absolutely. And whoever will fully accept you will fully accept you. And the people who won't.
Yes.
Which is all out of your control.
This is true. And that's what you can and can't control. Is another thing I love to delve into. One thing I'd also like to share about confidence that usually a lot of people have a misconception about is like, Oh, there's this great book that talks about it, The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. It was written in like the 90s by somebody smart. And they say like a lot of people, they're like too afraid to become too confident, because if they do, they'll become arrogant, full of themselves, or narcissistic, or an asshole. And what's interesting is those qualities in a person are actually signs of lack of confidence in ways, because you constantly have to prove yourself to keep that inflated sense of ego of some kind. So a confident person who walks in a room, especially in an argument, doesn't necessarily need to always prove themselves right in the argument. They just know it.
Catherine McHugh, she's got a cool TED Talk out there. And one of the quotes that I really enjoy from her is, most of us don't take up nearly the space the universe intended for us.
Yes.
Which I find very profound, because some of us can take up a lot of space. Not everybody takes up a lot of space. Some people have very diminutive personalities, and they're there to primarily support roles for other people. And they're quiet and they're cool and they're very comfortable in those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are big and do and can can expand to a great deal of space. But to your point, a lot of people don't go as far as they could in whatever they want to go into, because they are afraid, like you say, of ultimately being too much. And that I think is, back to interpersonal relationships. I think there is a great deal of fear of either being simultaneously too much and too little, all at the same time. Like, I'm too little because I didn't go far enough to take care of this relationship, and sometimes I'm too much, and I'm going to be asked to be quiet or not accepted or something like that. It's difficult to find the boundaries of who you can become while also being accepted.
Yeah, that's true. That reminds me of I'm blanking on what podcast this is, but somebody talks about that, where it's just titled Too Much. And one of the concepts they talk about is this was interesting to me, because I hadn't heard this perspective before. They say women tend to struggle with the concept being too much, whereas men tend to struggle with the concept of being not enough. And now I believe that everybody struggles with those, obviously, in their own ways. But I can definitely relate to the feeling of not being enough, for sure. So just want to throw that out there.
Well, I think also I'll use myself as an example. I'll speak for myself. How's that? And not for others. I'm a rather confident individual. I've done a lot. I've accomplished a lot. Can do a lot. Have a lot of skills. Deep in some areas, broad, and very broad. And yet, I know what it's like to hold myself back, because I don't want to be rejected from friend groups. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to fully step into something, because if I do, I'm going to eventually find my limit. And I don't know what that limit is, but it seems to be far out there. But it could be that could be the next step I take is the one that fails me. Yeah. And that also then is a fear of rejection or fear of shame. Yeah. All of which is, like you talk about, is the struggle. If we would see these things as a struggle that we all share, and it just works its way out of us in different ways. The root is all the same. The root is the same. You might see me and then not like me. I'll be seen and then rejected. Or the other way to say it, I want to be fully seen and fully accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. Fully seen and
for all of my mess. And this is the other thing too, because we're always in a constant state of change. The way I affect myself in the world today is different than it has fewer barriers, fewer walls than 5 years ago, because of things I've gone through and work that I've done. Now, if we take multiple people who are all at their different rates of change, of being fully seen and expressing themselves, at each point of change, there's the new fear of like, I'm not going to be accepted for this. If you put all a mishmash of people together, we're all sitting there in some stew of like, I'm changing and I might not be accepted tomorrow because of the thing that I'm doing today. That's a lot of moving parts, but I think there's hope because we are all at some point on that continuum at any given time.
It reminds me of,
trying to be seen and be accepted.
Absolutely. Just, it reminds me of that post I've seen. I think it was like, it's a caterpillar having coffee with a butterfly. And the caterpillar says, "You've changed." And the butterfly's like, "We're supposed to." It's got beautiful large wings and whatnot. And the caterpillar is kind of gray and just like, yeah, we're supposed to change. It's interesting because like the growth is inevitable. Change is inevitable. It's the only constant in life. It's the only thing we can guarantee that's going to happen. But we hate it so much. It's this constant battle of like, it's painful. It's this constant battle of like the brain tries to keep us safe by growing, but you have to like, as you probably have in your journey learned to like, you have to sidestep that, which is also sidestepping your ego in a lot of ways.
In some ways,
take the uncomfortable route and learning to get comfortable with that. Not always, of course, but it depends. Like, in the extreme example of like, is it always okay to be comfortable with uncomfortability? Well, as one of my good friends said, he's like, I don't think your ego can handle like making 75 sales calls and getting 70 no's and 5 yeses. I'm like, oh yeah, nope, you're right about that. I personally cannot. Some people can, good for them. But I'm just like, and that's not something that I want to be comfortable with doing,
right?
Like that type of work type of thing. But like, I don't know. Yeah, it just opens the door to like, things that, and this kind of goes back to the purpose thing of like, if it is something aligned with really something that resonates with you and you really want to do in your world, you're going to withstand much more uncomfortability in pursuit of that than like me learning how to code, which I tried and I didn't like it. Hated it. In fact, I couldn't stand it. I tried to do
that. That would indicate that you are a people person.
Yes.
which is why I was like, wow, he went from therapy to IT. Those are massively different things. And then IT to coaching, I was like, yeah, he's a people person.
I'm a people person. Absolutely. I thought I could be a people person in IT world. Nope, not for me.
No, then you're in sales or consulting.
Yeah. And it's just, no. Yeah. I basically made a hobby because I build computers for fun. I love that stuff, the tinkering and what's exciting to me, into like a career because I had more experience on paper at the time. And don't always make your hobbies into a career. So
coaching is tinkering as well.
It is. And that's why they go mesh. I can't. I used to always say like, why do I love computers and why do I love people? It's because like I love figuring things out.
Right. You like tinkering, but you went into computers because they were safe. They don't talk back. They never reject you.
Yes.
And so we could, you tinker with the inanimate. Because
so I thought. That was not the case. Then you get in customer service and you have people yelling at you all the time.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, they do talk back and they're always angry.
Always. Yeah. And they don't, and a lot of times because they have no idea what's going on.
No.
and to their credit, to the regular Joe credit, who gets angry with the IT person. There was an IT person that I worked with years ago.
Yeah.
Who flat out told us, until it's reported 3 times, I'm not doing anything about it. We were in an office space with like 10 people, and you go to the IT person, you're like, hey, this isn't working. You're like, oh, okay, I'll get on that. He's not going to. And the second time, that's terrible. I'll get on that. And then he eventually just told us, yeah, flat out, the third time that this is reported, I'll actually address it. Like, you're terrible. You are a terrible IT person.
I can see why he'd say that, but I also don't agree with that logic either.
I would just tell people, if it's not repeatable, it's not believable.
That's a good
if
one.
It is repeatable though, then I will believe you.
That is
but
true.
If it could be totally a one-off thing. I mean, there are things that are just one-offs. It's like, well, that's not going to happen again.
I think one of the major jokes, and you may be familiar with it in the IT world, is like, did you turn it on and off again? Did you unplug it? Is it plugged in?
Yeah.
Which is always step one.
Yeah, there's also the exactly. There's also the we used to bandy this around in IT because I was in IT for a long time.
Oh, okay. So
I'm self-taught programmer, and I own an e-commerce company, and I've done a lot of stuff. Done program robotics. I've done a lot in IT. But we would. There was a joke at one point in time that you just tell the other person, "Well, that's an EBSS," and they'd be like, "Oof, okay, all right. Well, how do I fix that?" You're like, "Well, you can turn off back on." Well, EBSS is an error between screen and seat.
That's funny.
Which means the problem is definitely yours.
Yes,
but we'd be like, "Oh, that's
That
an
was
EBSS. I think you should turn that off back on. Why don't you close that browser and reopen it?" You're like, "Oh, it's an EBSS." Yeah, it's terrible.
That's so true. Yeah.
Terrible calling people out on their ignorance.
Yes. Yeah. I did that many times. I can relate to that for sure.
So you're a tinkerer of minds, a
Yes.
tinkerer of hearts,
Yes.
to change the trajectory of lives.
Well, I wouldn't say I like to tinker with people's hearts, but I like them to examine
do.
their heart, get clear on them. Well, yeah.
You do. You're flipping switches.
Yeah, it's true.
And they're like, "Whoa, hey, I didn't know that switch was there." And you're like,
Surprise.
"That's why I'm the coach."
You're greater than you thought you were.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that you have seen people, markedly change the direction of their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have. One of my clients, he was just like, "I've lost 2 pant sizes and I haven't been this confident in years." And I was like, "Whoa, well, good for you." Really happy for you.
Do you have a tapeworm?
He did
No.
not. I was concerned, but
Have you
it
started
was a
smoking?
reasonable amount of time, not just like a week or something. So
That's
was-
awesome.
it was
That's got to
great.
be pretty. It's got to be thrilling for you
It is.
to be able to see life change happen in front of your eyes.
It is. I don't know about all coaches, but at least for me, like it's just those beautiful moments where somebody they're just like, what? They just have a breakthrough, a realization in their mind, just like, oh my God, I can, or I am, or like, I'm not, I don't have to, I get to, or like just those moments. And just like, I love that because it's just like, yes, your brain has shifted in a positive direction. And I helped that, but mostly like it's just beautiful to watch that. More
So, this is a pretty heavy question, but do you feel that in coaching, have you, by being a coach, exercising your skills in coaching, have you feel like you've kind of zeroed in on your life purpose?
1000%. One of the interesting things about coaching and therapy, and maybe other fields too, I don't know off the top of my head, but what I love about coaching specifically is that, and you may have heard this, but like whatever problems you're dealing with in your life, your clients bring them to you. They're also dealing with the same thing. And because it's not you can see the forest for the trees, or however that analogy goes. You can see it better. And you can see it within them. And then as their coach, you coach them through it. And then it also helps you. It may not obviously be the exact problem, but it's very similar. And so not just that, but by coaching other people, you grow as well. It's definitely like a give and take type of thing. And so like, since I started coaching, I've become a phenomenally better person. Absolutely. And like, I thought my social skills were good, but like, ooh, they got better. For sure.
Yeah.
And so
exercise them.
It's constantly growing and learning. So growing isn't always fun, which is definitely a painful experience that I reminded of as of recently. And so like growth isn't always fun. What sometimes people mix up with growth is learning, which to me is very fun and enjoyable. But growth is sometimes very painful. It's just the afterwards, you're like, yeah, I feel good. It's like working out. I hate working out, but I love doing it. I feel so good afterward. I've never regretted working out. Also never hurt myself majorly. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
The pain passes, it's fine.
Yeah, but like in terms of like to answer your question, yes, it has helped me be more aligned with my purpose because this is my purpose. Now, obviously, the niche and stuff may grow and shift, but that's just variety is the spice of life. That's what makes it exciting. So, 10 years from now, I may not be coaching the same people, which is totally cool and exciting to me. May not be in the same country or the same state. Who knows? I don't. I know I'm gonna be somewhere.
That's exciting.
So, yeah.
I'm thrilled for you to have gone through the situations in your life and on your journey to have brought you to this place, because I do get the feeling that you are just kind of sitting in the pocket. You're just, you're just right on the path of where you find yourself most alive, and where you make the most contribution in your world.
Absolutely, it's amazing.
That's cool. So to close this out, you are a holistic competence coach.
Confidence. Yeah.
Holistic competence coach to IT people.
Young IT professionals.
Young IT professionals.
Fall in love with themselves. If they want to level up their personal and professional relationships, I got you.
Wow. That's high calling, man.
Hey. That's what I do.
Cool. Well, as we close this out, anything that comes to anything that you'd want to leave our viewers and listeners with, that's gonna sit on top of mind for you?
You're greater than you think you know. And you are, I guess it reminds me of a story, if I have enough time to share a little story.
Yeah, please. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's this great documentary, though, tell the story. I'd recommend it. It's called Finding Joe, and it's free on YouTube. Recommend it. But at the beginning of the movie, they talk about this story of, I guess, these monks who are followers of Buddha, and there was this giant statue. Maybe you're familiar with this story. And something happened where there was a war, some country was being invaded, and they were like, "Oh, this golden Buddha." It was a golden Buddha. It was giant. And so like, "Oh, we gotta hide it in something." So let's. I think they painted it or put something over it to make it look uglier or not attractive. And so when the town got raided and the town got taken over, they didn't ignore it because it just would look boring. So they forgot about it. And then eventually monks came back to live in it. And then this one guy was meditating, and then just a chip came off of the giant statue, and it was gold. He was like, it was gold. So he got all his buddies to come, and they chipped it away. And then the golden Buddha is back again. I share the story back. What I just essentially just to reframe what I just said is what's beautiful about self-development and growth. What I love is you're using external sources to really learn more about you. And the more you grow, the more you realize you're actually more amazing than you realize you are. So all the greatness is within you. It's just due the time, patience, and diligence to uncover it. So yeah.
Wow. That's a great, a fitting way to end our time together. This is great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Joey. This has been a real pleasure to spend this time with you, and I'm certain that people have received value off of the things that you've come to share with us today.
Absolutely. It's been fun.
Well, to our viewers and listeners, this is another episode of Coffee with Humans, where strangers become friends. Today, my new friend is Joey Natale, and we have discussed purpose. We have discussed gratitude. We have discussed how to shift the direction of your life by loving yourself. Join us next time. Subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, other places, and we'll catch you next time.
Toodles.
One of the things I love about Coffee with Humans are the raw conversations I get to have, meeting new people just like you. If you or someone you know should be on Coffee with Humans, go to coffeewithhumans.com. Remember, the only rule is no sales calls.
This has been Coffee with Humans. Subscribe to get updates or click to have coffee with me. coffeewithhumans.com.